And God is already talking. We go into Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6 is going to be a lengthy passage, so for those that can stand, stand. For those that want to remain seated, it's okay because I'm going to read 6:11 through 24. Amen. Judges chapter 6. 11, we'll start at the 11th verse. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth tree, which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon was threshing wheat in the winepress in order to hide from the Midianites. Somebody say Midianites. Hiding from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." I want to read that again. He hiding, but the Lord say, "The Lord is with you," the Bible says, "you mighty man of valor." Gideon said to him, "Oh my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles which our father told us about?" Questioning God's ability and questioning God's work. I love it. "Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?" And he's saying this sarcastically, y'all. He ain't saying it like God doing all this, but where is he now? Why is all this happening to us? Where is he now? That's the mind frame that Gideon has right here. "But now the Lord has forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites." Somebody say Midianites. Yeah. I'm having fun already. "Then the Lord turned to him and said," God said, "Okay, son, let me speak, because you're speaking out of your pain, but I'm going to speak out of your purpose. Let me purpose you right now." Woo, when your purpose to be made. I'm just saying, but anyway, let's go right back here. "Go," he said, "go in this might of yours." Go in your own might, okay? "And you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you?" So he said to him, "Oh, my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest." The weakest of Manasseh, in Manasseh. He said, not just in Manasseh, but we the weakest tribe that come from the lineage of Manasseh. "And I am the least of my father's house." I'm the youngest. I ain't got enough wind. I don't got no inheritance. I'm the least of my father's house. God goes after the least. "And the Lord said to him, surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as one man." Then he said to him, "If now I have found favor in your sight," this is Gideon talking back to the Lord, "if I found favor in your sight, show me a sign that it is you who talks to me." Because, after I done came through all that confusion, I got to realize that who talking to me? Am I speaking out of my own desire, or is it the Lord himself? I got to know. And he did something interesting. He says, "Do not depart from here, I pray, until I come to you and bring my offering." Oh, good God. "Bring my offering and set it before you." And he said, "I will wait until you come back." He said, God said, "Go on and get you what you get. Come back. I'm going to be here." So Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from the ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot. And he brought them out to him under the terebinth tree and presented them. And the angel of God said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread and lay it on this rock and pour out the broth." And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord put out the end of his staff that was in his hand, and he touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire arose out of the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. And the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. Now Gideon perceived that he was the angel of the Lord. So Gideon said, alas. He knew he was talking to. He thought he was talking to a representative. Alas, O Lord, for I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. Then the Lord said to him, peace be with you. Do not fear. You shall not die. So Gideon built an altar there to the Lord, and he called it, the Lord is peace. Yahweh Shalom, also Jehovah Shalom. To this day, it is still at Orpha of the Abezerites. It's still there. You may be seated. Now, this is very interesting as we talk about the first mention of Jehovah Shalom, Yahweh Shalom, or the Septuagint would have it Selam. They would say Shalom, S-H-A-L-E-M, and they would spell it in that and later be translated as Shalom. But in it, talking about this and talking about the Lord, the peace, let's talk about the distresses first that was going on and why he needed the peace and God seeing what he needed. Now, what was so interesting is that he never asked God for peace, but God gave him peace because he knew what he needed for his soul. We got to understand that on this journey that we have, that God knows exactly what we need. We got to be in tune to the will of God, the way of God, and the things in which God has in store for us. Even though we may be crying out one thing, because his thing was the fact that we threshing wheat, you come to me, you want me to do something, but in the midst of it, you talking to me like I was created for battle or something. I'm over here hiding. How you gonna come to me when I'm created for battle or something, you know? But in the midst, God knows how he have designed you. He knows what he have called you to. So in the midst of here, we see that there is a situation that is going on, and the situation involved the Midianites. Now, just giving you a little bit of backdrop about the Midianites. The Midianites was the descendants of Abraham. So Abraham had Isaac and Jacob, but Abraham also had 6 more children after we know that Sarah died, and he had children by his concubine Keturah. And one of the sons of Keturah was named Midian. So this is his clan. This is his clan here. And this is why it was so significant when Jethro knew a little bit about God and giving Moses advice and leading the children of Israel, because why? He practiced in the way of Abraham. So he knew something about it, but something happened in the midst. And what happened in the midst with the Midianites, because they were allies with Israel, but what happened in the midst of it is that they began to link up with Moab. And so you know who Moab come. We know that Moab is a part of descendants that come offspring of Lot. And we know that, you know, Lot had a son named Moab by his daughter. So we know that they linked up together. And when they begin to link up together, things begin to happen. And the Midianites no longer turned to God, but they begin to serve idols. So now they're in a position where they're serving idols and they're doing things. And then God speaks to Moses and tell Moses, you know what? He says, Moses, I want to tell you something. He said, now they are enemies of mine. He said, now I want you to go up against the Midianites. This was one of the last battles that Moses would have as the children of Israel will battle. They were battling Midian. They were battling Midian. So now the bad blood comes between blood. Bad blood comes between blood. Because if you trace their lineage, they're attached through the blood. But still and yet, because of the separation of and how sin has, and one decided to follow God and the other group did not decide to follow God, now bad blood happens, bad blood. And so in the midst of it, it caused a battle. And in the midst of the battle, we see that Gideon and now rise up in the situation, because the children of Israel was now put in a place. And the reason they were put in a place, look here at 6:1. 6:1, this is the reason why they even come to this position to even be oppressed by the Midianites. It says, then the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. Okay, so the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. So the thing of it is this, you got to realize that before they got here, the children of Israel in the book of Judges was a judge that rose up. The judge that rose up here in chapter 5, we see was Deborah. It was Deborah and Barak that did the defeat at the time. And so after they had finished the battle, it said that the land in there at the time after Deborah had finished was about 40 years. So now we're talking 40 years with no confusion. So the children of Israel has a time of 40 years where there's no confusion. There's nothing going on. They're able to enjoy their life. You know, it's some peace that is reside there. It's 40 years, but all of a sudden, something happened with 7. After the 40-year mark, and, you know, the children of Israel got to the place where they did evil in the sight of the Lord. And so they began to turn from the God that they served, and they began to turn to the Baals and the Ashereth. Now they get to the place after God had blessed them, after God had did what he wanted to do in their life, after God had brought them through, because they cried already because of the oppression, but God brought them through a place where they didn't have to be oppressed again. And in the midst of it, they get to the place now that 7 years they go back to serving Ashereth and Baal. And so as they served the Ashereth and Baal, one of the things that began to happen is that God released the Midians. And when he released the Midians, what they would do now, they didn't want their stuff. They just went over there and trampled on their stuff. Now, it's one thing to take my stuff and use it, but it's a whole nother thing to take my stuff and waste it. So they took the stuff and wasted because they had stuff. So they took it and trampled their land, and every time they would grow something, they would come through and they would pick up what they grow. Oh, good God. You know, like the enemy want to come in our lives sometime and think that, you know what, we on this move for God, we moving, and all of a sudden he want to come in and pilfer your joy. Oh, good God. When you planted a seed of joy over here, you know what I'm saying? Now you at a place where you strong, you're standing in God, your prayer life is where it needs to be, and all of a sudden up come the enemy thinking that he got a right to come in and mess with you. But I tell you one thing that he got to realize is that you belong to God. No matter the situation of the children of Israel, you got to realize that they belong to God. Regardless of their condition, they belong to God. He was still acclimated in the covenant. Though they were unfaithful in the covenant, it really didn't matter because they belong to God. So here, seeing how it was, and that in the place of Gideon being in this position. And it's so interesting because God created him for it. His name actually means cutter of trees. So if you go on and read Gideon, you'll see how he had to cut down some stuff. But in the midst of it, seeing here that the children of Israel is in a position, in a place, and now that they're in an oppressed situation, they cry out to God. It's nothing like God giving you a chastisement to bring you to the place where you will be in the midst of his presence. You know what I'm saying? Now we know that there were some situations going on by the way that Gideon approached God when he talking to him. So we know that Gideon has some bitterness in his heart against the things of God. I'm just gonna keep it real. You know how it is when God ain't moved the way we thought he was gonna move. You know how he ain't did it yet. You know what I'm saying? We waiting around. I done heard Joe's testimony. I done heard Joe's testimony. I done heard Joe's testimony. I hear all of the testimonies, but still and yet there's a promise coming to me, and it have not been manifested. I thought mine would come the day that God spoke it through the prophet, but still yet I'm still awaiting for it. And in the midst, I get a little worried about it because I see that the situation in my life is now being depleted. And now I'm wondering, where is God? God, you said, and God, I believe. You tell me if I have faith, then God, I believe. And so in the midst of it, I find myself at a place where I don't want to tell God that I'm mad at him, but I'm in a place where I just begin to shrink back a little bit. So now I'm not praying like I used to. I'm not fellowshipping like I used to. I'm not worshiping like I used to, because truly my problem is not with the saints, but my problem is with God. Hey, Rosa. But see, I ain't gonna want to say that. So I come in the house and Sister so-and-so looked at me crazy. So I don't need to be here no more. Baby, that is a trick and a snare of the enemy. Because when you leave, it's still a heart issue. So in it, Gideon approached God, and he telling God, we done heard of all this stuff you done done, but we in this condition. We in this situation. You know, you done did it for everybody else. But you say you love me. Not understanding, because The pressure of life is getting to me. The pressure of life is weighing down on me. It's not that I just wind up in this place because I wanted to wind up here, but the pressure of life, the distractions, the weights of life, the change in the course of life. Now the pressure is getting to me. And now that the pressure is getting to me, I am looking for God, and he haven't came yet. I turn over my plate and pray, and he haven't came yet. I'm looking for God to move, and he haven't came yet. But one thing that I forget is that he's sovereign. God does what he want to do when he want to do it. No man can make God move. God is God in the midst of it all. Regardless. I tell you, I had to learn that for myself. I had to learn that for myself. On this walk, over 20 some years, I had to learn it. I had to get it in my mind. Because I thought when I came in this thing, every time God moved. Every time I prayed, God moved. Every time things happened, God moved. I walked with the favor. Favor was everywhere. So I didn't know God separated from him. I didn't know God that I had to wait. What is wait? But what I didn't know that God is growing me up. And when he began to grow you up, he would allow you to wait on him because you can't be anxious for nothing, but with prayer and supplication, making your requests known unto the Lord, that you can have what? The peace. The shalom. The shalom. Why would you think you need shalom? If you're not in a state where you need peace, you wouldn't know him. Gideon wouldn't have known him. But Gideon wind up in this position. And though he's talking to God, and God chooses him. He chooses the least person in the camp. Black sheep of the family. The one that was just the jacked up of the family. The crazy one of the family. The one that, you know what? You so messed up. And what's so messed up, nobody wanted to be around you. The one that everybody in the family blamed everything on you. The least. I ain't got the degrees. I can barely speak because I ditched every time I had a chance. The one that don't have the intellectual knowledge. The one that had enough nerves to speak her mind. Nobody wanted me around. Didn't want to deal with me. No parts. God. No parts. Because I messed up and I messed up their reputation. So they were looking for a reputation from the world. But in the midst of my disparity, God was looking for me to bring him glory. So he wasn't intimidated by my lifestyle. He is Jehovah Shalom. The least. David was the least. But still and yet, God created him to be a king. Gideon being the least. But he's in preparation mode for a judge. But what's so interesting, God will cause him to deal with the least. Because he had to deal with some anger issues right here. Come on. I don't understand. I need to understand this thing. I don't understand, God, what is going on here. I don't understand how, I heard all these things about you. And still and yet, you're allowing these things to happen to us. I don't understand. It ain't my fault that I was raised with a mix with seeing worship, tainted. I was raised seeing worship tainted. He knew about something about Asherahs and Baals. I may never agreed with him, but I just was raised that way. Come on. Everybody around me serving. Everybody around me is serving the Asherahs and the Baals. Their own desires, their own lifestyles, what's important to them, but not important to God. And still and yet, all around they serving, but still and yet want the fullness of God. The devil is a lie. Holiness or hell is real. Believers got to make their decision today. Holiness or hell. For he is a holy God. And yes, he's a just God. And we in today where we think that, you know what, we can do this and we can do that and we can do a little bit of this and all we got to do is give ourselves a little bit of Jesus. But I got to tell you today that you're going to have all kind of turmoil in your life. He want all of you. He didn't call you to, make you, you know what I'm saying, to be at a point where you give yourself to the world. He decided not to show it, not to share you with another. He's Quana. He's a jealous God. He's not here to share. He had mercy on who he had mercy on. But we cannot take grace for granted. Think it's going to be okay. Woo, I tell you. Woo, many people are turning back. Many people are backsliding. And it's okay because he'll meet them there because he's Jehovah. You know what I'm saying? Shammah. So there's no place that one can go. He already put it in the book. If you make your bed in hell, I'll be there. If you in the lowest parts, of the earth, I'll still be there. If you're on your highest mountain and think you can get away with me because you're doing all good, I'll be there. And I thank God that he's there because no matter how high-minded I get, and if I get to the place where I forget about God, he has a way where he reminds me of him. And I'm so glad that he's there, even if it takes me to fall. But what I can do when I fall right into Jesus. And so it doesn't matter when I mess up, I fall right into Jesus. And so if he got to bring me down and take away everything I have, I fall right into Jesus. He's there. He's there. He's there. He's there. Woo. He's there. He's there. And I tell you, we got to know that he's there. So now that I know he's there, I cannot be in a position where I ignore the fact that he's there. Because that's where the detriment comes. I got to realize that he's there. Let me get down to this shalom. Get y'all out of here. Woo. I'm telling you. But looking here and seeing it, even when he got to the place he's here and he asked God all these questions and God began to tell him his destiny. You got to realize that sometimes in your distressed situation, in your oppressed situation, God will birth you through and bring you to your purpose. How was it that he was going to stand as a judge? How is it that he's going to stand in that position? How is it? How is it? He ain't know nothing about judgeship. You're talking about somebody threshing wheat. He's a farmer. He was a serious farmer because he was threshing wheat where no wind was blowing. He really had to know some stuff. He had skills. But God was raising him up to be a judge. And knowing that in the midst of it, there were some things he had to face. But the first thing that he had to face, point number one, in the midst of it, of knowing God, he had to first know that God was with him. And in the midst of it, God said that he was Shalom. Why? Because when it gets to the place to realize that he has seen God face to face, what that actually means is that a place, especially in biblical times, when one would see God face to face, what would generally happen after that is that they would die. Because it was no man would see God face to face and live. And so in the midst of that, they would die. But here you see that Gideon got to the place where he's like, oh my goodness, I'm dead now. Not only did I say all that I said, but now I recognize that he is God. Now I'm really dead. But when you got purpose in your life, God is not going to take you out of here until you fulfill the purpose that he created you for. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. But he's in there, and you see the purpose of him being at a place where he says, okay. And then he begins to erect the altar. Okay, God, I'm going to bring your offering. Let's see if this is real. I'm dying. I'm going to go in here and get the best of what I got. The best of what I got. I don't care if it ain't nothing else in my house. I'm finna sacrifice unto the Lord. So the cattle I'm finna give, and the ephah of flour that I'm finna give, and the soup that I'm finna make, hey, if I don't eat nothing else, I'm bringing it before Jesus. I don't care because I'm just that serious about what he's doing. And so now what he was doing was getting to the place and saying, accept my offering. Because if you can accept my offering, then I know that you in covenant with me. And if you don't accept my offering, then you're not in covenant with me. And what I got to be sure of is that I belong to you. And I got to know it because my ears open up to hear you like distressed. I am oppressed. I'm tired. I'm tired of running from them. I'm tired of ducking and hiding and dodging. Now I'm in a position where I need God to move. So if you who you are and you speaking to me of who you are, then you will accept my offering. He gives the offering. And God speaks. Woo! He gives the offering. God spoke before the offering, and now he's speaking after the offering. And what I love about it, before the offering was all about him. Before he offered, he had to move him out the way. It was all about him. It was all about what we don't have. It's all about my complaints. It's all about that before the offering. Woo. But when I recognized that I had an encounter with God, now it's about what he wants after the offering. Woo. So in the midst of it, you see here that Gideon gets to the place where he does it and he gives what he gives. And after he gives what he gives, God speaks to him. He departed. Now look at this. This is really important here. I'm telling you how to get through and keep your peace. He gets to the place here where, oh, for real? Were we there? He gets to the, well, anyhow, no. He gets to the place. He gets to the place here where, woo, I love God. I'm telling you, we can have fun in Jesus. He gets to the place, where he's at a position where, what God has done, what he had done for him, but he departed out of his presence. And in the midst of departing out of his presence, now that Gideon is open because of the encounter that he had with God, his ears are open to God. He looking to hear God. Everything around him has just became illuminated. And now he had been alone with God. See, this was a time that he was alone with God. God met him in his alone place because many people wasn't going into the place in which he was. But God knew where he would be. And so in the midst of it, after that, God not even there, but he hears the voice. He speaks to him. And he tell him, you ain't getting up out of here. You ain't going to die. Peace. You know what I'm saying? Peace to you, for you're not getting up out of here. You're not going to die. At the place when you want to throw in the towel and let it go and get away from everything. Come on. I know that feeling all too well. I don't live there no more, but I have my bags packed to jet out and go be a bum on the street. And then, every now and then, I know Sister Jessica and Sister Gooch, if I'm out there homeless, I won't let them know until I really need something. Then I say, okay, give me a spot, but y'all can't tell nobody. You got to swear oath, swear oath, swear oath. I ain't lying. I thought about letting it all go. I let it all go. I don't want nothing. I don't even want them to know my name. I changed my name. Pastor, no. Shh. Put me over there with the crazy of the crazies. Nobody come look for me there. I ain't lying. I thought about that, but that was me. So in the midst, him being where he at, but God began to say something to him in the midst of the distress and his fear. After he told him, peace be with you, do not fear. Then Gideon moved in action. And the action of Gideon, he begins to build an altar. And he built an altar to the Lord and named it the Lord. Yahweh Shalom. The Lord is my peace. And it's so interesting because we got to realize that coming through our distresses in life, we got to walk in peace. You can't make decisions out of anxiety. Too many people are making decisions out of anxiety, then living with regret, and then pride comes in, and now you're in a position where you're prideful because you don't want to recorrect what you did. You know what I'm saying? God say, recorrect what you did, and you're like, nah, that's too embarrassing. No, just recorrect what you did because what's about to come after is going to be more embarrassing than what you're about. So just correct it. I'm wrong. I thought that was the right decision, but it wasn't the right decision for me to make at that time in my life. And so in the midst of it, we got to watch it because if we don't, then we wind up in a situation. And when you wind up in a situation, it brings about no peace. The enemy wants the believer to have no peace because he get us caught up in the snares. And how he get us caught up in the snares is by us moving way too fast and running from something into something else. That's how they do in the animal kingdom. That's how they trace their prey. They catch their prey. Why? Because the prey is moving, thinking there's something over here, when they run right into smack dab of the enemy in the trap. But it's so interesting because he is Jehovah Shalom. That shalom, that peace that comes, the whole completeness of peace. Meaning that I could be in the midst of chaos, but still and yet all I feel is his presence. I can be in the midst of despair, but all I feel is his presence. I should be angry and upset, but the peace of God and joy comes right along with it. I should be angry, ready to tear up some stuff, but the peace of God holds and restrains me. Whew. I should be at a point where I'm ready to take my life, but the peace of God shows up when I wanted to let it go. Woo. The peace of God. I tell you, we got to know today that he is your peace. He holds you in the middle of your storm. Whew. Sometimes riches will be too much for some folk. Let one person win that billion and let you think, you watch the people lives after they had the lotto, and they'll tell you how they feel it's cursed because they stuff got all turned around and twisted and upside down. They'll tell you as many stories of them that have won and had the money, and now they're in a place where they're in a worse, they say, I'm more in a worse condition now than before I had the money. Why? Not because I had the things that I didn't want before. That I couldn't have before, right? So I'm at a point where I'm struggle. So I'm in my struggle. But now I'm in my struggle, still having my mind. But now that I done had all the riches, know what it is, and now that I didn't make some wise decisions, now I'm in a place where not only am I back struggling, but now I'm mentally distressed. No, not at all. But I'm so glad that God showed up and that characteristic showed up. That's big right there. You can't buy peace. Can't buy it. You can't put a price on it. You can't buy it. It ain't going to come in no house. It ain't going to come in no car. It ain't going to come in no job. It ain't going to come in no degrees. You can't buy peace, baby. You can't buy peace. It's something that God gives to you. You can't buy peace. And I'm so glad to see him here in Judges as Yahweh Shalom, knowing that he is the God of peace. But you know what I love? Because many people say, well, that's just in the Old Testament. And I don't know how Christians don't believe the whole Bible, but I don't understand. We can pick and choose what scripture I want to believe today because that fit along with my situation, and that one over there condemned me, so I don't want to believe that. But you fail to realize that there are prerequisites to your blessing. So I'm just saying, unless you read the whole book and believe the whole book, then you're still limited in your faith. But he's God, Yahweh Shalom, in the Old Testament. But he shows up in the New Testament. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Oh yeah. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. 2 Thessalonians 3:16. He shows up and he is known as Kurios Irene. Kurios Irene. 3:16. The Lord is your peace. The Lord is your peace. The Lord is your peace. Woo. Kurios Irene. The Lord is your peace. So when it comes to this walk and it comes to this journey, and as we continue to journey on this journey, I love the fact that God continues to illuminate himself to us. It's a big thing. He illuminated himself to those that believed and that was called for purpose. But he's even illuminating the church today and reminding us of who he had been called and who he is in our life. Why? Because he's trying to get you to fulfill your purpose. Don't throw in the towel when pressure hits. just turn to Jehovah Shalom. Lay out. Get what God has for you. And I tell you, don't move until the peace of God has moved you. If the peace of God is not there, don't do it. Because I tell you, when you do it, you're going to come right back around to it on the second go around with a little bit harder. It's nothing to just stay and lay out before God, take your break, whatever it is you need to take, your Selah moment, back up from everything and hear what thus says the Lord. It's okay. We got to do this on this journey. Turn off your phone, turn off everything else. I ain't answering nothing. And all I need to do is hear Jesus. I need to make sure that I'm in line and in tune with what he has called for my life. Because God, I'm feeling this here. And though I may be feeling this, I want to know, are you directing my path? Am I to move or am I not to move? There's some things that I'm believing God for today. There's some things that are set up right now. I'm telling you right now that we can make a move on. Bishop and I can make a serious move on. But I can't make a move on that because the peace of God is not there. It doesn't mean that I don't stop praying. It doesn't mean that I don't stop seeking God. And it doesn't mean that what we see, he haven't shown us for it to come to pass. But I cannot move until the peace of God comes. That means when the peace of God comes, now I have not a question of doubt about the transition or whatever it is that needs to be made. So though I may see the vision, I can't run ahead of God on the vision. I have to wait for God no matter how long I have to wait for him to give me the peace, because I don't just want the right time, I want the ripe time. So you got to understand there is a right time and God will move you in the right time, but then that time is because of your anxiety and he knows that you can't hold on no longer, so now he moves you to add a little pressure and take a little pressure off. But when you move in the right time, R-I-P-E time, that means that when I move it's effective. That means that when I step over and do what God has called me to do, then what he wants will come to pass. That means that I'm right on point, so I got right and ripe together and it produces a harvest. Jehovah Shalom. I'm done. Jehovah Shalom. Jehovah Shalom. That's who he is Jehovah Shalom. And I tell you, God is our God of peace. If you don't have peace in your life today, then seek God peace. Don't seek a situation. Don't seek something else to do. Don't seek another move until you actually have the peace of God. Because if you don't move with that, then you get to the place where you have regrets. Now you made the move and now you become agitated. Now you're more irritated. Now things begin to happen that wasn't happening before. Wait for the peace of God. Believe you me, he is Jehovah Shalom. He do it at the appointed time. So I'm not quick to move. I done had much prophecy given to me about a particular thing, and every time I get in the midst of a prophecy service, God already tell me that they're going to prophesy this to you again. I'm not quick to move. I ain't interested in that. I'm not quick to move. You know what I'm saying? I'm not concerned about no name and lights and all that. I like my life like it is.